Good morning. It's always nice to begin our show with you knowing that you're watching on the other side of the camera here on 3+U. My first guest walked in the door and he kind of threw me a little bit because he said, "Hey Julie, how are you today?" And here's the honest truth. Today I'm really great. Yesterday I was kind of having one of those low days. So I had to stop for a minute and think about how I was going to answer Charles Miller, who's here with me from Scenic City Neurotherapy. And I'm telling people that truth because when you're having a low day, and I was having a low day yesterday, not even an explainable low day, no reason to, I just kind of was. And it was not fun.
Bad days happen.
Bad days happen.
That they do.
But if you have consistently bad days, if you're watching today and you are someone you know is depressed, riddled with anxiety, I know you do a lot with PTSD, it becomes debilitating.
It does. What we do addresses the physiology behind why people get stuck in these emotional ruts.
Yeah.
Why this pervasive depressive state just continues to overwhelm us. Why with anxiety, something that should provoke anxiety does provoke anxiety, but instead of provoking a normal response to anxiety, we get this excessive response.
Okay, so you actually at Scenic City Neurotherapy, what you do largely are ketamine infusions. You are a nurse anesthetist by training,
Correct.
Right? And you branched out and began doing this how many years ago?
Just going on 5 years ago.
You believe in it so much, not just because of its efficacy in the treatment, but because of its efficacy in helping your clients and patients to learn about what actually is going on. Education's a big part of what you do.
Oh, it's paramount in what we do. When the patient understands, and not just in what we do, but in all of medicine, a well-informed patient will always do better.
So you do not do this, though, on your own.
Oh, no.
Your clients come in, they have to have a mental health provider that they're working with. If they don't have one at the time, you will help them find somebody.
Yeah, because a lot of people come in and they don't know where to start. And they're looking for something different because they've been on medications for years and years, and we haven't had just a ton of success. And those are the patients that we look for. Those are the patients that really thrive at our facility, because if you've tried everything that it currently exists out there and not had success, if we keep doing that, then it's like we're repeating the same mistakes over and over again. What we're doing for mental health in particular is one piece of mental health that's never been addressed. It's the true underlying physiology, the part that you can't think your way through.
So, Charles is here every month. So there's a really good chance as you're watching today that some of this conversation is going to sound familiar. Some of you might not know so much about him. Ketamine has been in the news a lot lately. Some people, when we've had this conversation, maybe have an unclear view of it because they hear about these at-home treatments that people do. That is not in any way the same thing as what you do. No,
and that's one thing that we warn people off of quite a bit. It's self-administering anesthesia historically has always been a bad idea. Ketamine is an anesthetic used for children 6 months and older. It's our safest anesthetic. It's a non-opioid, non-narcotic, and it's one of the World Health Organization's 100 essential medications. We couldn't do anesthesia without it. That being said, it comes with inherent risks and needs to be administered by somebody who's board certified in anesthesia.
You are not, you have been very dedicated in the 5 years that you've opened the business. You do more of these than anybody in the world, which is an alarming thing to say. That's just shocking that here in Chattanooga, there you sit, doing more than anybody. But the Chamber of Commerce has nominated you as one of the small businesses of the year, right?
Yeah, we were very flattered to be nominated with a couple of other excellent businesses. We find out in April if we win, but it was incredibly humbling and flattering at the same time.
Well, I'm sure that they, first of all, have been watching you grow and have this footprint on the community. They've also, I'm sure, learned about the work that you've done with the VA. You have been petitioning the VA for about 3 years now, is that right?
It took a long time. It took a really long time to get our foot in the door, but now that we're there, we're able to provide a service to veterans that, like and do it quickly and effectively. So that's one thing veterans complain about, is that how long it takes to get help.
Well, I think, okay, I mentioned my bad day yesterday. I would not have wanted that to be prolonged.
Yeah.
It was not fun. So what Charles is, we're kind of surfacing this conversation a bit this morning, but you go in, you consult with people when they come in. Anyone is welcome. Nothing exclusive about your practice.
No,
correct?
it should be accessible by anybody that can benefit.
Okay, so they come in, they meet with you, it's a free of charge consultation. You kind of learn what's going on in their lives. You get the mental health component to kind of help them find somebody if they don't have someone overseeing their care. And then you administer these ketamine infusions if they say, yeah, let's proceed. How often do people come?
If we're addressing a mental health component, because we do many other different types of treatments, but when we're addressing mental health in particular, it's usually about twice a week for 3 weeks for stabilization, and then beyond that, so think of it like catching up a deficit. Once we get that deficit caught up, beyond that, it's just maintenance. And even in that case, it's not maintenance forever. Think of it like a safety net. The boosters that come after the stabilization phase, they just keep the patient in that good space while they do work outside of the clinic, to better their environment, healthy practices.
Okay, so let's give a hypothetical example, because you cannot guarantee the same outcome for everybody, I'm guessing.
No.
Okay, you've brought on first responders with you before. So let's pretend that it's a first responder who's been to a really horrific scene, and there's some trauma associated with that experience. So they're, I guess, not sleeping well, maybe their personality's changed a bit, PTSD's kicked in.
Yes, we see, the PTSD taught us so much about how the brain works. We learned so much more about how it is more of a neuronal pathway issue rather than the chemical imbalance, theories we've thought forever.
Okay.
And I think that changed the whole way we look at it. We look at it more like a neuronal injury, like what we would see after a traumatic brain injury, rather than a thinking problem or something you're stuck with just your whole life. If we can create an environment where the brain can self-correct, we can move a patient to a point of remission.
So kind of like if you're a runner, you were running and walking fine, but then you tore a ligament, so you got to let that heal, right? Same idea. You were one person before the trauma, and now you're another person.
And all the time we use the analogy of the knee replacement. It's like, when we do a knee replacement, the anatomy is correct. It doesn't mean we're ready to get up and run. You have to rebuild, muscle mass, flexibility, range of motion. You have to work with physical therapy to get it strong again so you can use it again. It's the same with us. It's what we do builds, gets the physiology working for the first time in a long time, but now you have to build off of this new foundation.
So sometimes, Charles, is it a family that encourages a loved one to come to you?
It's very often people come with family. I think there's a lot of curiosity. It's good to have an advocate. It's good to have a second pair of ears because there's a lot of information at our consultations. But it's sometimes people can't get out of their own way, or they just feel stuck and they just can't get to the next step.
Or if you are really, I'll use depressed for example, if you really are in that state, there's no motivation there to begin with, probably.
No, getting out of bed is hard enough, let alone trying to get up and make it to an appointment outside of the office.
So what I heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that any of these scenarios we're talking about, they come in, they meet with you, things begin, they come basically 2 weeks for 3 weeks, 2 times a week for 3 weeks. During those 3 weeks, are they working with a mental health provider, or do you wait for your time to elapse?
It depends. It just depends on if they're already established with someone. We usually slow down outside stimulus, outside focus while we go through the process, because the patient is not building during the ketamine infusion. They build after. So what we do stimulates a protein to release in the brain that rebuilds neuronal or dendritic connections, the pathways between your brain cells. It enhances all the roads that connects your brain to the way it talks to itself and to the body.
Do you, back to the family support or the friendship support, do you work with those people to say, here's what your friend or loved one might experience as we go through this treatment, and so kind of be mindful?
That's a big part of it. I also, if the spouse or a close loved one comes with a patient to an appointment, I'll talk to them about how they can help, how they can provide feedback, because a patient going through through the process will see changes themselves that others don't see. They just feel different. but their behaviors and actions and engagement with the world change as well. So, but
Right.
they're not always aware of that themselves, but other people notice.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I have less than a minute, and I want to let people see how to get in touch with you. But you did say something, and that is that most of what you do involves the depression, the anxiety, the PTSD. But that's not it only. Chronic pain you can help with.
We do, specifically nerve-based chronic pains, like neurologic pains, fibromyalgia, complex regional pain syndromes,
Okay.
phantom limb, among even just structural pain. Like if you've lived with chronic pain for a long period of time, there's a really good chance that that we can minimize the inflammation and the inappropriate nerve signaling to enhance quality of life.
Well, I have the benefit of talking to him every month, so I'm sorry if the conversation this morning almost jumped in halfway through, if this is not a familiar topic to you, but he would love for it to become one. So if you want to call his office, 228-2579. You can also learn more on their website, ScenicCityNeurotherapy.com. Best of luck in April. As you're up for that small business award from
Thank
the
you so
chamber.
much.
And he would love to help you with a free consultation and learn how perhaps things can turn around for you. We're back after this.